everyone, and welcome back. Hope you had a nice day and you were able to get done some of the things that you either needed to get done or wanted to get done. I know I had a little bit of both. I had some schoolwork I needed to do, but I also made time to go for a nice long walk with my dog on the beach, and we found some beach glass, which for me is always a nice mindful practice, and I recommend that to anyone. I was very happy when the sun came out this afternoon and we were able to do that. So, just looking for ways to be grateful for the things that we have in this crazy time. And yeah, I hope that you guys are doing the same. Before we dive into the tale of Despereaux, which I'm very excited about, I would like to do a quick mindful moment. So, I invite you to put out your hand. I invite you to put the index finger of your other hand on the center of your palm. And we are going to take 5 big inhales and 5 big exhales as we trace our hand. So inhale for 1, exhale for 1. Inhale for 2, exhale for 2. Inhale for 3, exhale for 3. Inhale for 4, exhale for 4. Inhale for 5, and exhale for 5. Take a moment to just focus on your breath, giving yourself the opportunity to let go of anything you have going on around you, any distractions, anything that is weighing on you from your day. Just take a moment to acknowledge it and let it go. And prepare yourself to immerse yourself in Kate DiCamillo's The Tale of Despereaux. So today we're going to read chapters 2 and 3 because they're a little short. So, y'all ready? When we left Despereaux at the end of chapter 1, he had just been born, and we noticed that his family is like picking up on there's some stuff that's a little different about Despereaux. So let's see what happens. Chapter 2, Such a Disappointment. Despereaux Tilling lived, but his existence was cause for much speculation in the mouse community. "He's the smallest mouse I've ever seen," said his Aunt Florence. "It's ridiculous. No mouse has ever been this small, not even a Tilling." She looked at Despereaux through narrowed eyes as if she expected him to disappear entirely. "No mouse," she said again. "Ever." Despereaux, his tail wrapped around his feet, stared back at her. "Those are some big ears he's got, too," observed his Uncle Alfred. "They look more like donkey ears, if you ask me." "They are obscenely large," said Aunt Florence. Despereaux wiggled his ears. His Aunt Florence gasped. "They say he was born with his eyes open," whispered Uncle Alfred. Despereaux stared hard at his uncle. "Impossible," said Aunt Florence. "No mouse, no matter how small or obscenely large-eared, is ever born with its eyes open. It simply isn't done." "His pa, Lester, says he's not well," said Uncle Alfred. Despereaux sneezed. He said nothing in defense of himself. How could he? Everything his aunt and uncle said was true. He was ridiculously small. His ears were obscenely large. He had been born with his eyes open, and he was sickly. He coughed and sneezed so often that he carried around a handkerchief in one paw at all times. He ran temperatures, he fainted at loud noises. Most alarming of all, he showed no interest in the things a mouse should show interest in. He did not think constantly of food. He was not intent on tracking down every crumb. While his larger, older siblings ate, Despereaux stood with his head cocked to one side, holding very still. "Do you hear that sweet, sweet sound?" he said. "I hear the sound of cake crumbs falling out of people's mouths and hitting the floor," said his brother Tulisse. "That's what I hear." "No," said Despereaux. "It's something else. It sounds like, honey." "You might have big ears," said Tulisse, But they're not attached to your brain, right? You don't hear honey, you smell honey. When there's honey to smell, which there isn't. Son, barked Despereaux's father, snap to it. Get your head out of the clouds and hunt for crumbs. Please, said his mother, look for the crumbs. Eat them to make your mamma happy. You are such the skinny mouse. You are a disappointment to your mamma. Sorry, said Despereaux. He lowered his head and sniffed the castle floor. But reader, he was not smelling. He was listening with his big ears to the sweet sound that no other mouse seemed to hear. Chapter 3, Once Upon a Time. Despereaux's siblings tried to educate him in the ways of being a mouse. His brother Furlough took him on a tour of the castle to demonstrate the art of scurrying. Move, side to side, instructed Furlough, scrabbling across the waxed castle floor. Look over your shoulder, all the time. First to the right, then to the left. Don't stop for anything. Despereaux wasn't listening to Furlough. He was staring at the light pouring in through the stained glass windows of the castle. He stood on his hind legs and held his handkerchief over his heart and stared up, up, up into the brilliant light. Furlough, he said, what is this thing? What are all these colors? Are we in heaven? Cripes, shouted Furlough from a far corner. Don't stand there in the middle of the floor talking about heaven. Move, you're a mouse, not a man. You've got to scurry. What? Said Despereaux, still staring at the light. But Furlough was gone. He had, like a good mouse, disappeared into a hole in the molding. Despereaux's sister, Merlot, took him into the castle library, where light came streaming in through tall, high windows and landed on the floor in bright yellow patches. Here, said Merlot, follow me, small brother, and I will instruct you on the fine points of how to nibble paper. Merlot scurried up a chair and from here hopped onto a table on which there sat a huge open book. This way, small brother, she said as she crawled onto the pages of the book, and Despereaux followed her from the chair to the table to the page. Now then, said Merlot, this glue here is tasty, and the paper edges are crunchy and yummy like so. She nibbled the edge of a paper and then looked over at Despereaux. You try, she said. First a bite of some glue, and then follow it with a crunch of the paper. And these squiggles, they are very, very tasty. Despereaux looked down at the book, and something remarkable happened. The marks on the pages, the squiggles, as Merlot referred to them, arranged themselves into shapes. The shapes arranged themselves into words, and the words spelled out a delicious and wonderful phrase. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, whispered Despereaux. What? Said Merlot. Nothing. Eat, said Merlot. I couldn't possibly, said Despereaux, backing away from the book. Why? Said Despereaux. It would ruin the story. The story? What story? Merlot stared at him. A piece of paper trembled at the end of one of her indignant whiskers. It's just like Pa said when you were born. Something is not right with you. She turned and scurried from the library to tell her parents about this latest disappointment. Despereaux waited until she was gone, and then he reached out with one paw and touched the lovely words, once upon a time. He shivered, he sneezed, he blew his nose into his handkerchief. Once upon a time, he said, aloud, relishing the sound, and then tracing each word with his paw, he read the story of a beautiful princess and the brave knight who serves and honors her. Despereaux did not know it, but he would need very soon to be brave himself. Have I mentioned that beneath the castle there was a dungeon? In the dungeon there were rats, large rats, mean rats. Despereaux was destined to meet those rats. Reader, you must know an interesting fate, sometimes involving rats, sometimes not. awaits almost every mouse or man who does not conform. So, this is where we leave Despereaux for today. Like I said yesterday, if you want to read along, I'm sure you can get this on Amazon. Also, for my students, if you are reading along or you have a younger sibling or even an older sibling, have them join the fun. This really is such a great book for all ages. Some of our Hampton Bays high school students maybe remember reading this with me in the library. It's been a few years since I read this in class, but some of the juniors and seniors maybe were in that group in 5th and 6th grade. So if you guys are out there, I hope you are enjoying this the second time as much as you enjoyed it the first time. And I'll be back tomorrow with a little more mindfulness and a little more reading. Hope you guys have a great night and see you soon.